panel discussion, which is Youth Leadership in Climate Action, Challenges and Solutions for Botswana. This panel will explore how young people are leading climate action efforts across Botswana, focusing on the challenges they face, the solutions they propose, and how youth can influence national climate policies. The discussion will highlight the perspective of the district climate champions and inspire others to take action in their communities. So with all of that will be discussed here, please engage with them, have questions written down for the speakers that will be part of this panel. But let me introduce the moderator, who is Tshepiso Masilonyane from Botswana Climate Change Network. A resounding round of applause for him as he moderates the session. Tshepiso.
Thank you very much, Tabi-san. Good morning. Hi. Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for coming to the first in-person Botswana Local Conference of Youth on Climate Change. We are so excited to have everyone joining us today, from our partners to the schools, to everyone else who applied to be a general delegate at this conference. Like Pato mentioned earlier, this is the second LCOY, and this year we had the honor and the privilege of very special people, our very special friends from UNICEF, joining us in making this an in-person meeting to bring the children and youth of Botswana, right, and share their perspectives on climate change. And today, in sharing their perspectives on climate change, we have some other very special young people, right? As part of the process to bring LCOY together, we looked out to the districts across Botswana, from Ngamiland to Chobe to Khanzi to the south and southeast district. And for each of the 17 districts, we've been looking for young people, children, who are leading climate change within their districts at district level. And they are here with us today. We are going to welcome some of them, 3 of them here today, for them to share with us their perspectives on climate change, share with us their journey on climate change as well, and what's happening at the districts, right? So we're gathered here in Gaborone, but the perspectives and opinions and experiences of young people and children at the districts are very important. And to help us with that, we're going to welcome 3 very special young people. Let's welcome, joining us first, Litso Bonang. A hand of a round for Litso. Litso is from Jwaneng. All right, thank you, Litso. Litso is an environmental consultant, geological, with a focus on geology, right? Let's then welcome Lara Kurasa, representing Gaborone. Lara, hand over. Lara is a student at Enko Boto here in Gaborone. And then finally, let us welcome Samuel Stanley. Samuel Stanley is a University of Botswana student here representing the Khanzi district. Let's hear it for Stanley. And then I'd just like to share, we have 14 others who are also coming from the districts, and we'd get a chance to engage with them throughout the rest of the program. Some of them are here on the first table. If you can just show the climate champions, the district climate champions, let everyone see you. All right. Thank you very much. And so, yeah, so guys, we want to hear about your experiences as a climate leader. This year's theme for LCOY 2024 is from leading to from learning to leading. And so we're going to do a lot of learning throughout the next 2 days. But we also want to demonstrate that children and young people can lead the climate agenda, not in the future, but today. And so we want to understand what your journey as a climate leader has been. Maybe let's start with Stanley to share with us your climate leadership journey. I know you have a lot to share, and I'm excited for you to share it with the rest of the group here. Stanley.
Okay, hi. Oh, thank you very much. Should I say director? No, it's not. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'll start by saying protocol observed. My name is Samuel Stanley. I'm from Tshepiso and Khansi district. And I was selected as the climate champion from Khansi district. And I'll just love by giving a bit of my profile as a climate change champion. I have represented Botswana in the rock art documentation training hosted in Namibia by the French Embassy. And you'd ask yourself, climate and rock art, how are the two intertwined? But then you know that climate is the mother of all things in the world. And I have also represented Botswana at the Indigenous Youth Forum hosted by the Food and Agriculture Organization in Rome, Italy, at the headquarters. And I've also been a delegate at COP28 in Dubai. I've also been a delegate at the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, hosted by the United Nations in New York in April. And I was nominated as the African focal point of the global indigenous youth. So particularly my journey in the climate change issues is focused on indigenous people, as I have said that I'm from Khansi. So it's all about we as the indigenous people to be recognized also as people or the inhabitants of the environment. Climate crisis has emerged as one of the global challenges, disproportionately affecting the vulnerable communities, especially we as the indigenous people. We have lived with the environment or in the environment for past of years back, and we have managed to take care of our environment. So my work is all about advocating and showing people what we as the indigenous people, particularly the San, have, and how we can contribute towards climate change issues. So this is just to bring the indigenous knowledge system that we have and to sensitize people about us as the indigenous people, because we are also affected by climate change issues. And I have decided to step in to the role of advocacy for climate justice and to address environmental issues. So my journey often intertwines with the legal education, because I'm also a law student at the University of Botswana. So I'm bringing the legal education so that we can understand and influence policies and taking the policies that impact our communities as the environment, as people that are living on the environment also. And from learning to leading, which is today's theme, expanding youth capacities from accelerated climate advocacy and sustainable action. We want our voices to be heard also as the indigenous youth. We need to take part and be into bodies that are designed or in place to draft policies. And I am happy that I'm here today to attend this very special workshop, because now my policies, my declarations would be part of the declaration that would be made by Botswana. And this means that the voice of the indigenous people is going to be strong, because I have managed to give deliberations at the COP28 under the African Indigenous Caucus. And I've also managed to give my declarations to the Special Rapporteur of the United Nations. So this means that our voices as the indigenous people are now going to be strong, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much for inviting me as the climate change champion.
Let's hear it for Samuel Stanley, representing the indigenous youth of Botswana in climate action. A climate champion of note. Thank you very much, Stanley. Incredible work. Let's move on to Laura. Laura, I know you have some exciting projects that you have been busy with as a high schooler even. Tell us a bit about that.
All protocol aside, my name is Lara Kurisa. And as for my climate action journey, I can't pinpoint where it started. But looking back, I would say it started in primary school when I was often called Elon Musk's advocate. I loved talking about electric cars and how much I hated the emissions from gas-powered vehicles. The black smoke from the cars would always give me headaches, and I wished Botswana had electric cars. Fast forward a few years, my family moved from Gaborone to Matebeleng, where we experienced severe water scarcity. We could go for weeks without water, and I asked my mom why this was happening, and she said, the same black smoke that gives you headaches is part of the problem that's causing this water scarcity, climate change. She didn't fully, explain it, but that sparked my curiosity, and I went on to research about it to fully understand it and find out how we can fix this. Fast forward a few years, at 15 years old, I was selected as one of the finalists from Botswana to represent Botswana in the on-demand youth leadership program based in the US around clean energy. And in that program, I got to learn so much about climate issues and solutions. And upon my return, I wondered if the youth of Botswana, the young people in Gaborone, really know and fully understand climate change and what's going on. So I then decided to do a survey junior schools, senior schools, and universities to find out, climate awareness among the youth. And from those results, I found out that the youth do know about climate change, but they don't fully understand it, especially the junior level. That realization pushed me to include young people in my community projects. So I gathered 10 youth from across Gaborone, and together we did a solar pumped rainwater catchment system in Matebeleng, Khotla. It's still ongoing, it's not yet done. Still looking for resources, but we managed to find help from the Matebeleng Primary School and Builders Mart. So yeah.
And tell us how far you've got. You said you've been able to, what you've been able to set up so far.
Yeah, so far we have gathered the Jojo tanks, we have done the stand, we have gotten the pipes, and we have been planning on launching a climate change awareness campaign in the community so that the elders, the people of the community understand why there is this water shortage, why there is this water scarcity, and how as a community we can move together to, elevate the stress. And the project serves as a prototype for people in the community so that even in their homes, they can just, do it during rainy seasons. They can, reduce the water bills and alleviate the water stress.
Awesome stuff. Let's hear it for Lara, everyone. Proving that young people can build solutions that work for the community, not in the future. Today, as school children, we can mobilize resource, we can go into communities, we can set up infrastructure to build community resilience today. Young people can be trusted to build climate solutions themselves, right? Thank you so much, Lara, for sharing that and incredible work. Let's move on to our third panelist. Litso, your climate journey is a bit different from Stanley's or Lara's because it's coming from a different perspective, right? That of renewed commitment and a realization that came to mind. Tell us a little bit about that.
Good morning, everyone. Protocol highly observed. Ke bidua Letso Harry Bonang, originally from Ratolo, grew up in Boka, Katling, and currently staying in Jwaneng. So I did undergrad geology in UB and further into MBA oil, gas, and energy management. So I've been studying the earth all my life and I've been putting it to practice. I'm doing geology consultancy and geotechnical engineering. So me and climate change meet mostly go MBA, oil, gas, and energy management. This is where we get the smoke that Lara doesn't like, that gives her headache. So I'm the guy to tackle that. I'm a scientist. I believe very much in science and bring about innovative as well as sustainable solutions, as the theme of the day says, learning to leading. So what I'm basically focused on is like, I want us to really understand the root cause of climate change. If we can go back there and teach the young ones, far below youth, let's take it Lojole Salimates, and then we can come up with very innovative and sustainable solutions for millions and millions of years to come. So as climate change will affect us for millions and millions of years to come, slowly but surely. It may not be too evident or visible to the naked eye now, but it goes a long way. So I'm advocating for those sustainable solutions, such as carbon capture, to eliminate that black smoke. I'm also advocating for the use of renewable energy sources. That's what I would like to instill, that knowledge, that awareness on how to go about to eliminate the root cause, and then we know that we are good to go as a healthy, greener earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stanley. That realization after years of studying and doing work as a young person, and specifically with the background in oil and gas, to then realize that there are alternatives, and with that background and experience, that he has a renewed commitment for countries to move from oil and gas, right, to renewables. But also, I guess, for a country like Botswana, that is reliant, whose economy is reliant on coal mining and coal-driven energy, how we can mitigate our emissions from that, right? You talked about carbon capture. And so those are the things, some of the things that you're advocating for. Let's hear it for Lone. Right, thank you very much. The next question has to do with the challenges that you've, as a young person, experienced or you've noticed around in your communities that are important to highlight. Can you share some of the challenges, Laura, that you've experienced in the communities that you do your work in?
In Gaborone, two of the most prominent climate issues I have observed are water scarcity and the heat waves. And all this supported by data analysis I got from DMS, the Department of Meteorological Services, which showed the increase in temperatures and the decline in rainfall. And personally, I have experienced the rise in temperatures and the frequent and severe, heat waves. And these impacts have led to heat-related issues like heart strokes, and particularly affecting vulnerable groups like the street vendors and those people who go around selling cool times and sweets from car to cars. And the other issue I had identified was the water scarcity. Like I'd said, I moved from Gaborone to Matebeleng, where I experienced severe water scarcity issues, where we could go for weeks without water. Same thing in Gaborone, we could go for days without water. And this affects our hygiene, it affects our food security, it affects our livelihood. And these shortages worsen, the public health risks and kind of pose challenges for the community, for our community.
And I know you've already started on the solutions end, right? I want you to now talk about what solutions you're advocating for, what needs to be done to address these challenges. You've talked about water scarcity. You've talked about how the informal sector is affected by heat stress, and I don't think a lot of people talk about that. So what needs to be done?
For the heat, to deal with the heat waves, to address the heat waves, I envisioned a green business center, kind of where small businesses like the street vendors could, have their small stalls under the cool environment. And this idea was actually inspired by a green building I saw in Seattle, the Bullitt Center. It's known and it's an exemplary model for sustainable architecture. It has natural ventilation and it incorporates.
Right. I want to come back to you, Stanley. You're coming specifically from the point of indigenous peoples, right? What challenges have you realized are being faced, specifically climate challenges by indigenous peoples, indigenous youth?
Thank you very much for the question. I would love to say, as the global community grapples with the escalating impacts of climate change, it is clear that we need sustainable solutions rooted in the wisdom of those who have nurtured and protected the matter, who have protected the Mother Earth for generations. So placing indigenous knowledge at the heart of climate change policy making is not just a matter of capacity, but it is a strategic imperative. It is a strategic imperative. So we, as the indigenous peoples and Botswana, particularly those who rely on traditional livelihoods, face significant challenges. And one of the challenges, she has also addressed them, is drought and water scarcity. There are frequent and severe droughts that are affecting the availability of water for livestock, because the indigenous people are now farmers, and we do have the hunter-gatherers, the San people, and this leads to reduced agricultural yields, livestock losses, and displacement. We rely on our knowledge, we rely on our tourism attractions, because we do have wild animals, we depend on wild foods. So the water scarcity and drought has affected us, and this is caused by climate change. We also experience extreme weather events and land degradation. So the certification and soil erosion in events where now in Khansi district we do have mines that are taking place now, and they are in the indigenous communities. So they have affected our land degradation, because it makes it difficult for the indigenous communities to maintain their traditional livelihoods. And we also experience loss of biodiversity. In the past, would have our wild animals coming to our doorsteps. But in these years, we don't experience that, and this is due to climate change issues. Our wild animals have been forced to move away from us, and we don't have connection with our roots. And we also have the displacement and migration. we have lost connection with our indigenous communities due to climate change impacts, and we have also lost our cultural heritage. Climate change threatens the cultural heritage of indigenous communities, including their traditional knowledge, practice, and sacred sites. So those are just the challenges that we are facing as the indigenous people.
All right, so tell me, you've spoken about water scarcity, land degradation, how mining is affecting the soil quality or land quality, right? You've talked about indigenous knowledge being lost and the need to protect the indigenous knowledge of indigenous peoples. If you were to prioritize one key solution, if you were to speak to a decision maker right now to say, prioritize this for the indigenous youth of Botswana, what would it be?
It would be the innovative adaptation strategies, because some communities are experiencing with new practices now, and we need to improve these techniques, and we need to be engaged in policy-making bodies, we as the indigenous people, and we need to collaborate with them because they are coming up with solutions and we are coming up with knowledge, which is something which is intangible. So if we work together, I bring my knowledge and they bring their scientific knowledge, it's going to be helpful for the nation at large and the global market, because we are also experiencing food insecurities as the indigenous people. But we do have our Tylosema esculentum, the moramabin, that can be grown, and it can grow in areas where there is no water, no fertilizers and what. So if we encourage the use and the growing of these traditional foods, it's going to benefit us and it's going to benefit Mother Earth, because we don't need fertilizers, we don't need anything, and we can even beat the global market using our indigenous foods.
Awesome stuff. Let's give it up for Stanley. You just spoke about integrating indigenous knowledge into the adaptation solutions that we come up with. As innovators, you might be sitting there, you have an idea that you're building. Where in that idea you're integrating the indigenous knowledge that we have? You might be coming from the fashion industry or from the tech industry. How are you integrating indigenous knowledge into your solution, right? And he says to do that, you need to engage with the indigenous peoples, right? To co-create with them. Awesome stuff. And I want to finally move on to Letso. We're almost out of time, but I want you to speak to one challenge, climate issue that you think is prevalent where you come from, and speak to a solution, just one solution that you would recommend.
All right, thank you, Masilonyane. Okay, if you're saying one, you're tying my hands, but I'll stick to that. Like I was saying, if we go back to the basics, right? Emissions of greenhouse gases. So we know when we say a mine is opening up, a mine is to expand, and we mean energy. Yeah. So we mean more motor vehicles or this big moving earth vehicles. So that means they are diesel powered, that is fossil fuel. So we mean more production of CO2 into the atmosphere. We're saying we are accelerating climate, climate change. We're going to have accelerated high temperatures, which will lead to all other things that they've been talking about. Water scarcity due to increased evapotranspiration. Our livestock will starve, there is no water, and we're all gonna experience those health conditions such as heat stroke. I have seen people falling because of heat stroke, enjoying. And so what I'm saying is, let's get that carbon and do what we call carbon storage or carbon sequestration, right? So it's an innovative technological approach in which we have to find a way of how to, because we do not have a power plant in Johnny Red, but we have a mine. It uses, the plant uses power, so that means we have where the power is being generated, and that means we can also capture that carbon from the plant, and then we do what we call carbon capture, carbon storage, and we can also use that carbon for many other uses, and we can also do inject it back to the ground for storage and for the microorganisms and the plants to reuse it again. Remember, carbon is a very important molecule. Even our diamonds are from diamonds metamorphosed over years under high pressure and temperature, millions of years, just like climate change. So that's what I would say in terms of one impact and solution. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. An innovative technological solution to mitigating our emissions as a country from Litso. Thank you very much, Litso. I think we have time maybe for how many questions? 3 questions. We're going to be very, very, very short, right? Because I think we have about 5 minutes left. 1 question per panelist. So if in the audience you have a question, or it might be, a question. Let's not do comments. Very quickly, we'll be taking now.
Introduce yourself and then your question.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Lwaho, and I'm a climate champion from Otse, just near Gaborone. My question will be posed to Stanley, Mr. Indigenous. In my experience, I've realized that indigenous knowledge is becoming irrelevant. For example, I've heard an old man talking about, because it's irrelevant because of climate change. For example, I've met an old man who was teaching me about how they would wait on rain, but there would be signs given by our natural, like the stars. Dinaledi tse di tshwana le bo seleka gore di tsamaya ha kae, tepolwapi ba kgona go e lebella ka tsone di sign tseo tsa mohuta o. But go ya ka ene o na lemoga gore indigenous knowledge ya latlhaga ka gore dinaledi tseo ga di sa tlhole di kgona go nna le sesupo. But I'm not saying every part of indigenous knowledge. I'm just saying how much of indigenous knowledge are we losing to climate change effects?
Thank you. I have a gentleman. Is there another person who I haven't picked?
Maybe someone from the schools, yeah? Awesome.
Okay, thank you. My question is to all. My name is Rocky. I'm from UBUX at the University of Botswana. My question is directed to all the panelists there. I have realized that all the panelists have mentioned the issue of heat waves and the water shortage. And my question is, since we have realized that countries like UAE in Dubai, they have opted to do what we call cloud seeding to mitigate these issues of heat waves and water shortage. Is it not time for Botswana to also consider the idea of cloud seeding to address issues of drought and water shortage? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Dintle Mkonto from Mogoditani Senior Secondary School. Protocol highly observed. My question is about the carbon capture or storage. I would like to ask Leto to elaborate more about this innovative solution. Thank you.
All right. I think we have our 3 questions for each panelist. I'll start with you, Stanley, to address that question about how we're losing indigenous knowledge to climate change. I think it might have been more of a question. You might maybe address it as well. So you spoke about integrating indigenous knowledge, but she's saying, yeah, but we're also losing some of our indigenous knowledge because of climate change.
Oh, what a question. Thank you very much for the question. How much indigenous knowledge we are losing for climate change, right? And particularly, I would say we have lost a lot of indigenous knowledge, and the indigenous knowledge has now become so irrelevant when it comes to climate change issues. And the knowledge that we are particularly now advocating for is the knowledge that can help us curb, or the knowledge that can help us go back to where we were as the indigenous people. There are a lot of knowledges that we can use, for example, on how we can cultivate our crops and how we can, like we do have the rain making ceremonies, even the Kalangas, I think they do have. And there are a lot of guesses now. The scientific world has taken part, and it has overcome our traditional knowledge. So these things, yes, it's true, they do affect and have taken away our indigenous knowledge system, and it has now become so irrelevant. For example, you are saying there were stars in the past that would mean something when it comes to climate issues, or would specify to mean something. So yes, it's now very difficult, because life is not like in the past, where we would not use our fertilizers, where there were no cars, no gas emissions and everything. So these things have affected the ozone layer and anything to deal with climate change. So our indigenous knowledge at some point becomes so irrelevant because of something that has, or the scientific world that has catalyzed climate change. So I think there's a part where it is true, our indigenous knowledge is irrelevant, but we want the practices of the indigenous peoples to also be recognized and be to be part of the processes and project to deal with climate change. I think I have answered the question. Thank you.
Well answered. And I think that's very important, right? The conversation that's being had here, because it's saying, if you're someone who's interested and passionate about the preservation of our culture and our indigenous knowledge, then you should care about climate change, because climate change is affecting how we understand our culture and how we engage with our culture and what we've understood culturally, right? So how le motho le tshomarelo ya ngwao ya Setswana o tshwantse kgang tsa phetogo ya seemo sa loapi di go ngwae, right? Because we're losing a lot of our knowledge that's cultural and that's indigenous to us, because the environment is changing, the climate is changing. Thank you so much for this conversation. Laura, we'll move on to you on the question on water.
The question was on cloud seeding. Right?
Yeah, cloud seeding.
I would say, yeah, exploring cloud seeding would be a good option. But when looking at these solutions, we need to take into consideration the scale, who's going to be doing it, the expenses, long-term, short-term goal, because I can't do the cloud seeding thing. It's the scale. It's for big businesses and stuff. That's why I had suggested, the things that we can do in the community, small things that we can do to kind of adapt or mitigate all of this. But yeah, cloud seeding can still be a very good option.
All right, thank you so much for that, Lara. And lastly, finally, your question, Litso, on expanding a little bit more on this carbon capture thing. What is that?
All right.
Thank you very much for the questions. Let me also try to touch on a bit about the relevance of indigenous knowledge. I think it gives us a significant clue, and it's an important data, qualitative, and can be transformed into quantitative. So if you used to see that star and knew that rain is coming, if you are no longer seeing it now, it says something. That's data. So if it's becoming irrelevant, but it's also feeding into the model, that means that our climate, our environment, our hydrosphere, atmosphere has changed. So I think it's not relevant. It is actually relevant. And if we all knew that what happens before rain and is no longer happening, that should be very important data to us. And on, is it Rocky, about cloud seeding? Well, I'm a scientist. I believe anything is possible. So with the right skill, knowledge, but the only thing that we need to focus on is that we are in Botswana, we are in Southern Africa, we are in Africa, and we just need to critically evaluate and analyze the idea on how it's going to be done in our environment. How is it going to be possible? In terms of finances and any other thing, I think if we start talking more of carbon tax, carbon levy, then we would also be able to secure finances. But Laura is right, we do really need a lot of money, because I know UAE is one of the countries that are pioneers of oil and gas mining, and they do really get a lot of profits from that. So they do have bigger pockets than us. And onto the innovative solutions of renewables, you know, there's even a master degree in focusing only on renewables, energy and technologies, about carbon capture, storage, and reuse. So it's an entire program, an entire module. It's a big phenomena. It might sound very easy when we talk about it, but we will also need a lot of finances when to implement it or execute it. Other renewables are wind energy, solar, which also need critical minerals to make those solar PV panels. And an important conversation we had with one of our district champions yesterday was, then you have panels, 25 years later, they're damaged or no longer useful. What happens to them? So that is where this sustainability action kicks in. How are we going to make those solutions sustainable? That is avoiding depletion to go on and on over millions of years. It might be tiring, but we need to secure funds. We need to make those recycling techniques very sharp and very adaptable to our environment and our people, our culture. We all have to be incorporating that. I'm imagining where you have to do sequestration, and then those who believed in praying for rain, and then they will probably start challenging you. So we have to make an integrated approach to all those solutions to come up with the best fit for our country. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Litso. And I think that marks the end of our panel discussion. And if I were just to sum it up, I think I'm getting three things mainly from our panel. One, integrate indigenous peoples in the decision-making and indigenous knowledge into the solutions we're building. What we're getting from Lara is trust young people to lead the implementation of solutions today. We have the ideas, we have the energy, trust us to lead. And what we're getting from Litso finally is on, let's take an innovative approach to addressing our climate challenges and even mitigating our solutions. So looking at innovative approaches to mitigating our emissions as well. And we got a lot more as well from the conversation that we were having, from questions from you guys. Thank you very much, from how climate change is actually impacting our culture and indigenous knowledge, to exploring, controversial solutions like seed clouding, right? And the need to exercise caution as African countries to prioritize on what do we really need to invest our resources on as a country in terms of solutions, right? I think that's just about the time we had for our panel discussion. But thank you very much to our panelists for sharing their journeys and their experiences from where they come from on how we can move from learning to leading. Thank you very much, everyone.
That was not a very deserving round of applause for the content that was given here. And I believe with that, we've really learned a lot. Firstly, young people are doing something in their own spheres. A round of applause to that. And in everything that we are learning, something that I picked up from Litso is that we don't just end at the knowledge or in the classroom. We're actually practicalizing it or seeing ways to be innovative around that. A round of applause for that. And another round of applause for representation. You heard how Samo was saying representing indigenous people, and that is a diverse group, the San. I even interacted with another group, the Nama, from the southern region. So a round of applause for representation as well. So we've been listening, and as we're checking our times, you know that around 10 is about the time for probably tea break or something like that. But I just want us to have an energizer by Elaine before we get to hear an amazing other young person who's doing quite amazing work. Elaine?
All right. Hi, everyone. I come back. I need this side, get out 5 volunteers. This side, young people also to balance things. Quick. How to 100 pula hongwe. Oh, Dizala Momorene. Energy high, what's up? Tsepang, gold. Letabo lwe na emel. A straight line, relibile audience, Kwanaker. Stelanka, let's call it Saba. Got over Siami. Araba Chapelindia, the confidence of Mahayana, that's all right. So, Homoto for Hela and distraction Haji Tata has a mets paper 3, nothing hectic. Ibidua River Bank. Right, I get. So, haba lenteng hone ke bank. Haba tola the rope kakwa. King river. So they'll listen to my instruction. Haba senya o moshapela le hofi hala utlo gona ha so tsang go timing ya gawa kere. Re ba halo rato. Ready? Rira mokonyana kere. All right. Bank. You jump akere. I get a bank, we jump I get on howling. Let's start again. Howling thing it's bank. How to la mo halakakwa is rope. Cool? All right. Bank. River. Are on. Arba shapelin rofi. All right. Bank. River bank. So baba kwa riveng ko pale go nang ha sa se sepela se personal arba shapele le coffee. Right. Bank. River. Bank river. River bank. Le coffee rapé. Okay. Nyamera ntse ra hokotsa re tla re champion ke bomang. Bank, river, river bank, river. River bank. Nya, le moni le lona ka to go montsha e go nnela hatsi. Bank, river. River bank. River, please, are mo chapele le gofi. River bank. River bank. Go slow go nyana ka go iragala. River bank. River bank. River bank. River bank. Bagolo re ba shepele diatla. River bank. River bank. Bank. River. Oh, go setse fine things. Fine ladies. From which team I be? No, enthusiasm, my vibe. Thank you. What's up, most siding thing?
This side. This side.
Yanong rahuira yang. Okay. Bank, river, bank, river, bank, river, bank. Now I'm heading over to the MC. Thank you so much, guys. Hara go nwa teng ke bona di VIP tsa rona after. Ha ke re ba win. Thank you.
A round of applause for Elaine. Thank you very much, Mewadi Vibes, for keeping us entertained as we are getting to learn quite a lot as well.